Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from True Off My Chest. Our first post is by Special Soup. I broke up with my then boyfriend 3 months ago because I thought he had stolen $846 from me. I just found the money. I can't say this on my main account and I need to write this out, but oh my god, I effed up. I effed up badly. I just found the money. It was in the chest of drawers I put it in, but the drawer I put it in had a small opening in the back. I didn't know it was there, and the envelope of money fell down there. I would never have discovered it, but the drawers broke, so I was taking the chest apart, and there was the envelope. It's the same envelope because it has my handwriting on it, and the receipt from the bank. I have to apologize, but this is going to be so bad. I told my friends and family about this, about how I suspected that he had stolen from me since he was the only one in my house that day. No one else had a key, and I haven't left that room or my house with the money. God, he lost mutual friends because of me. I ended a 2-year relationship over this. I just didn't believe him when he said he didn't take it. I hurt him for no reason, and then I blocked him. An apology won't be enough. I'm going to contact him tomorrow, and then I'll tell everyone else. Wow, I effed up. Our next post is by Throwaway. My 25F husband, 27M, is angry because I'm pregnant with twins and he only wanted one kid. So for some background, my husband, 27M, and I, 25F, have been together for 5 years, married for 2 years. My husband grew up in a very strict and traditional family. His parents were very religious and they had 8 children. My husband is the second-born child, but he has an older brother who is severely disabled. So growing up, his parents forced him to basically raise and watch over all of his siblings. Growing up, my husband had no childhood. From the moment he was able to do things independently, his parents forced him to grow up too fast. Directly after school, he was forced to feed, bathe, change, and take care of his older brother. And on top of that, he was expected to take care of all 6 of his younger siblings. His parents were very neglectful. His mom was only attentive to her children when they were babies, but once they started walking and becoming their own person, she kind of stopped being a mother. It's also important to note that his parents had a very unhappy relationship, but they refused to get divorced. So my husband grew up in a very toxic household. Before my husband and I started dating, we talked a lot about our ideal futures. I told him that I wanted kids, maybe after being married for a couple years. He told me that he wasn't sure if he wanted kids or not, because he was afraid to end up treating them like his father treated him. And as much as he'd love to have his own kids, it would destroy him if he became another version of his father. I was already in therapy at the time, so I suggested he look into therapy as well. Shortly after we started dating, he began seeing a therapist. He has really come a long way, especially learning to love himself, and I'm proud of him. After almost 2 years in therapy, he told me that he changed his mind about kids. He explained that therapy helped him realize that he was just afraid of becoming his father, and he's actively learning to unlearn toxic behaviors that he grew up with. He also explained that he was open to the idea of kids in the future and wanted to be the father he never had. Well, we've been married for 2 years and both have stable jobs. So earlier this year, I brought up kids and how I wanted to start trying for a baby. He admitted that he was a little scared, but he was ready to be a dad. We had multiple long conversations about the type of parents that we wanted to be, our parenting style, and what we deemed as unacceptable behaviors for parents. And my husband mentioned that he only wants to have one kid. He was pretty clear about how he didn't want his kids to repeat his childhood, where the older child has to take care of the younger one. We found out that I was pregnant about 3 weeks ago while we were visiting my family in Brazil. We got back home last week, and I had my first ultrasound yesterday. I'm almost 9 weeks pregnant. The ultrasound confirmed that I'm carrying twins. My husband couldn't come to the appointment with me because he had to work, but I surprised him as soon as he got home. I was expecting him to be happy, and even nervous or scared. But he was really mad. He started freaking out and kept asking me if I was joking. Then he just straight up asked me to terminate my pregnancy. I just stared at him because I was shocked. I told him that I wasn't going to abort the babies that we planned. Then he got really mad and said that he only wanted one baby. He told me to either abort both or at least abort one of our twins and keep the other. That's honestly ridiculous. I don't know if that's even possible, but I refused. We got into a really intense argument. He has never yelled at me until yesterday. He just kept yelling about how he only agreed to one baby and how I'm being selfish. He left the house last night. I've tried to call him, but he won't answer his phone. I don't know where he is. Twins don't run in my family, and they don't run in his family either. It just happened, and I have no way of controlling that. I don't understand why he's behaving like this. He was so happy about becoming a dad, and now he's asking me to get rid of our babies. I'm really lost. I haven't gotten much sleep, and I had to call out of work today. Our next post is by Loud Complex. My husband suggested polyamory a few years ago, and I love it. We're 5 years into our marriage with 3-year-old twin girls. After the girls were born, he pushed for a polygamous relationship, and at first I was against it. He kept pushing, and I finally said yes. At first, when he would be out with someone else, I would cry. I debated divorce for a while. After I cried and processed everything, I realized how over him I was. I also realized that leaving him would put me in an awful position, and the girls would have to live their whole lives moving houses every other week. Then while I was deciding what to do, I realized the perks. He works full-time, and I do part-time teaching a few yoga classes in the morning. I get great insurance through his work, a great place to live, and barely pay any bills. He worked from home most of the days, but I convinced him slowly into going into the office after I get home from my morning yoga classes around 9 a.m. I then pushed him to go out on more dates, and I would do whatever I wanted with the twins. We go out on play dates with my mom friends. We see movies, go to parks, and do anything we want. He's almost always gone at this point on multiple dates with multiple women. I get to pick what I want to watch every night after the girls go to bed. I rarely have to clean up after him because he's gone all the time. I basically get all my bills paid for. I get a free place to live. If I want a night off, I just tell my husband I have a date, and he takes care of the girls or takes them to his parents' place. I typically don't have a date. I just go shopping, eat at a place by myself, read a book at Starbucks. I'll even do girls' nights and get us hotel rooms so none of us have to Uber home. I've gone on a couple dates, but honestly, I don't really care to date. Our relationship is basically over, but I enjoy the perks of it now. Edit. Wow. I really appreciate everyone's concern, especially my financials. I'm not poor or broke myself. I have a cushy inheritance from when my father passed, and I'd be able to full-time my yoga classes and not have to worry about a place to live or such. I also know about alimony and child support. I currently like the setup because I won't have to only see my girls every other week. They won't have to divide up their items between 2 houses. They still see their dad almost every day as well. He always makes it home by 4:30 a.m. to be with the girls while I go to instruct my yoga classes. I also said that there's a chance I'll meet someone, a chance I'll decide I'm done, a chance he'll want a divorce. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. I mean, what's the difference between deciding to divorce now or in 5 years, or 10 years, or whenever it happens? I'll at least know I tried to give my girls stability in their younger years. Our next post is by Anonymous Stories. I ignored my husband so much that he went away without telling me. I, Carla 30, am 6 months pregnant with mine and my husband's, Harry 31, first child. During this pregnancy, I've been very exhausted every day and would usually come home from work and go to bed an hour later. Then I'd wake up at midnight and reheat what Harry had made us for dinner. For context, I've been part of a huge work project that's been going on for months, and I've been extremely overworked. On top of this, My husband doesn't have a job at this moment and isn't looking for one unless I remind him. I've been working overtime to get as much money as I can before maternity leave. Our anniversary was on the 6th of August, and I'd asked him if we could have a romantic dinner at home and then snuggle up to watch TV under a warm blanket. I thought it was a wonderful idea since I was too tired to go out, and because I knew that Harry was doing most, if not all, of the household chores. However, he seemed a little annoyed when he agreed, but I thought nothing of it. The next morning, Harry seemed quite cold towards me and barely looked me in the eyes. Once I got home from work, he wasn't there, but that was normal since he could have been out with friends or at an interview, and so I went to sleep. I woke up at 11 that night to see that I was still alone in the house, so I checked my phone. I had about 8 missed calls from Harry and a long text. I'm summarizing, but the text read, "I understand how tired you are because of this pregnancy and you having to work extra hours most days, but I'm over being ignored every day and having a 5-minute conversation with you every so often. You expect me to do all the housework and plan our boring anniversary alone. I'm really annoyed, so I'm staying at a friend's tonight. Text me when you see this." Of course, I called him and texted him about being sorry and wanting to talk, but I never got an answer. In the morning, I called my boss about having a day off and spent most of it waiting for Harry and planning my apology. However, when he came home, he silently handed me a rose and a card saying that he loves me but needs a few days away from me to figure out what he's going to say and do. Then, those days became a week. This part happened on the 13th, 8 days later. I messaged him every day, and he would constantly say that he needed one more day or just another night at his friend's to figure this all out, but on the 13th, I decided to go to the friend's home he was staying at to confront him. So I drove over, nearly 30 minutes away, and banged on the door so hard that I could hear it echo from inside. By this point, I'd realized that I should have put more effort into our relationship, but he also should have talked to me about this instead of running away. Harry's friend came to the door and was confused but pleased to see me. He seemed a little on edge as I talked to him, and he had to break the silence every so often with comments about my pregnancy and how he couldn't wait to meet the baby. Finally, we stopped talking, and I practically demanded to see Harry, saying that I wanted to apologize, but also explain how childish he was being by hiding from me. The thing that I found absolutely hilarious, but actually not at all, was that his friend said that Harry wasn't there and had left for Ireland on the 9th. Ireland. To say I was absolutely beyond furious and extremely confused would be such an understatement. His friend invited me in and sat me down to talk. Turns out that Harry had told his friend of our problems and had come up with the solution of going on a holiday as a couple to sort everything out and learn to love each other again, in Harry's words. So, of course, his friend thought that it was a lovely idea and helped him to book the flight on the evening of the 5th, the first time he had stayed at his friend's house. Since it was a last-minute booking, Harry's friend had stayed up with him for quite a while before they found a flight who was taking a few more passengers due to canceled tickets. His friend then explained how he'd been confused when I arrived at the door but didn't want to say anything about the holiday in case it had ended early due to us arguing. Harry's return ticket is booked for the 20th of August. I am just so angry and quite heartbroken, to be completely honest. I messaged him the moment his friend had finished talking, and Harry only responded an hour ago with nothing more than a "had to figure things out, sorry." So now I'm home alone again and trying to figure out what I'm going to do and say when he gets home. Anyway, thanks for reading about how my life is going. Side note, I'm from the UK, so Ireland isn't as far as people think it is since I'm not American. But it is still. So far. Other side note, a question that keep repeating is, where did he get the money from without you noticing? So I'll leave my explanation from the comments here. He has a bank account with his money from when he worked as a teenager and a little into his 20s before we met, and a few years ago, We agreed not to touch that money and add to it every so often. It was a backup savings account, so I'm assuming that he took the money from there since it wasn't from the joint account. I've had time to think a little. Here's another note, 6 hours later. I knew this post would get attention, but I assumed it would only be a little. I've never used Reddit before, but I've seen it on TikTok a few times, so I thought posts only became popular on there, and maybe this one would get as popular as my IATA post. Not very. I was upset when I posted this, and didn't think about how I'd handle all of the judgments and conspiracies once I'd calmed down. I appreciate the hard truths, empathy, and/or advice given to me, but I am not divorcing him, changing the locks, calling a lawyer, or anything like that. Small update, it's the 17th now. I've had a longer think. I'm not deciding anything until our talk, but I definitely won't be staying in my home with him after this. I can't trust him not to run away again. I'll talk more about this on my actual update, but I've gained some self-respect and realized he's being an asshole. I talked to my mom, and she's happy for me to move in with her on the 21st, and I'm free to stay for as long as I need to. Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.